first of all, apologies about the Barnet. It's pretty bad right now, but I think from what I've seen on Twitter, I think everyone's struggling. It's either this or a skinhead at the moment, and with a head my size, skinhead isn't really an option. So yeah, I thought I'd do a video about poker, given that is my main source of income, and with us being in lockdown at the moment, one of the few industries that is really thriving is the poker industry. So I thought I would just answer a few questions. I got pretty much a mixed bag sent to me, so it's not really the most concise video, but hopefully those who did ask a question will get an answer to what they asked. And if there's anything else, you can either DM me on Twitter or reply to this video, and I'll do the best to answer if I can. Most of the questions were kind of beginner based. Basically just how to learn poker or how to get started. First of all, I would say is don't pay for a coach or anything if you're just starting out. It's not worth it. All the info you need you can pretty much find online. Just how to play, or just watch loads of YouTube videos about poker. Whether it's live poker or online poker, it don't really matter. It's more enjoyable and you'll take it in. And then once you have a basic idea of how the game works, then I would just say, just sign up to a poker site online and play. Most websites you can play for as little as £1. So, you know, if you play 5-10 tournaments, okay, it cost you a tenner. But that experience will really help you. Once you've kind of worked out, you know, the gist of the game and what you're trying to do, then I would say just read some articles online. You can literally just Google basic tournament strategy, and there will be a load of stuff on there that, you know, will take you from being a complete novice to someone that could hold your own in the low level tournaments. And then as you work your way up, you can look at, you know, mid-level strategy, advanced strategy. You can watch YouTube videos about certain areas of the game that you're struggling, or you feel like you're bluffing too much or not bluffing enough, or how to value your hands correctly. Are you playing this hand too much? Are you not playing enough hands or playing too many? Whatever it is, there will probably be a free video out there for you. I think when you get to a certain level, like maybe when you're break even, if you want to go from break even to a winning player, that's maybe when you can look at some coaching of some sort. I think it's more worth it then rather than when you're starting out. So yeah, I would just say use all the kind of free services you can get. YouTube, Google, they're all your best friends when you're starting out. The next one is, what is the easiest way to win money in poker? I would say tournaments. I think there is some disagreement. Some players will say cash, some players will say tournaments. But I think you attract more worse players to tournaments because they like the idea of being able to buy in fairly cheaply, and you can get lucky and, you know, win quite big in tournament poker. Whereas on the cash tables, generally the better players are always going to kind of come away with the money. Tournaments you're always going to win bigger, but you're going to go on longer losing runs than you do with cash. So I think it's what you prefer. For me, tournaments I just find more enjoyable. I can play for 6 or 7 hours of tournaments and enjoy it because it's always different. The beginning stages, the mid stages, the end stages, you having to think and you putting yourself in different situations. Whereas cash games, especially at the lower level, you're just playing ABC, trying to play against the weaker players and just trying to win a little bit of money off them here and there. And you're playing a bit like a robot, and I find it less enjoyable. And I think there is still more money to be made in MTTs, but it all depends what you're better at. If you're someone who can only spare half an hour here and there, it's probably best to play some cash. You know, you can still be profitable at it, even putting in just a couple of hours a week. If you're good at spotting the poorer players and being able to exploit them how you can. Which sites are the softest? I would say any site which is attached to a betting site is likely to have weaker players, because a lot of the volume from their site will come from players who maybe signed up, whether it's Sky Bet and are now playing Sky Poker, or William Hill and now they're playing on their poker site, or any site which is attached to a betting site is likely to be weaker. But the smaller sites, there's less money to be won because there's less people playing. So I would say Sky Poker is the best bet because it is, Sky Bet is huge on its own, so Sky Poker has become fairly big itself. Obviously, like Party Poker and Poker Stars, they are kind of standout, purely poker-based sites, and there's a lot more money to be won on there, but it attracts more of the better players, so therefore that's something I would only kind of be suggesting getting into if you're playing purely for fun, or if you've got yourself to be a consistent winning player and are looking to take some shots at some real life-changing money. So yeah, I would definitely say, you know, personally I'm a tournament player myself, so I can't give too much advice for cash players. But in terms of tournaments, I would say, for me, Sky Poker is where I've made most of my money. But I do play quite a bit on Party Poker and Poker Stars as well, but it's more a couple of times a week rather than most nights like I do on Sky Poker. In terms of actual strategy itself, I'll say I've had a few random questions. So again, it's not really going to follow in an ABC order. But someone said, how's best to read someone online? And I would say bet sizing is the most crucial tool for this. Obviously, when you're sitting down in front of someone, there are a lot of tells. You know, I'm a real kind of advocate of body language and things like that when I'm playing live poker. I love learning about that kind of thing. I love psychology. I love Darren Brown and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. Online poker is completely different. You can't see the person. You can't pick up on these things. So bet sizing is really important. Just last night I was playing poker, and it was, you know, there was a player who was of a fairly average ability, maybe average to lower. Every time he had a decent hand, he bet 3/4 pot. Every time he was bluffing, he bet half pot. So it was kind of, I picked up on that tell maybe within 5-10 minutes of playing him, and he was on my table for a couple of hours, and I was able to exploit him just from picking up on that one bit of information. Now, a lot of good players are going to mix up their bet sizing. They're not going to be like that. So the higher up you go, the less important bet sizing can be. But at the lower levels, when you're starting out, it can be a real big indicator of how strong someone is. And there's a little note. Normally on most poker sites, they have a little notepad next to a player's name where you can write little notes about them. And most times players don't change their game. So if you pick up a tell, a week later, that tell is probably still going to be something you can exploit. Even a year later, sometimes players are still playing exactly the same. So bet sizing is key, but I would say speed of the betting as well is something you can pick up on. There's not kind of a hard and fast answer about how quick or how slow someone bets. It means what they have, but normally I think if they bet quickly, it means their decisions are easier. Now, that could mean that they have absolutely nothing, and they knew they had nothing, so they were always going to bluff. Or they always had a good hand, and they always knew they were going to value bet. But it can kind of tell us that they're probably not going to have the best hand in poker, because you might want to think about it a bit more. Then you might think, how can I get the most money out of this? How much should I bet to kind of maximise the value of my hand? And also, if they weren't sure whether they were going to bluff or not, they might take their time, because they might be thinking, can I get a bluff through here? Will it work? So I think it's more of a case of, the longer they take, the more of a decision they have. And that doesn't always help you. You have to kind of judge the texture of the board, judge the strength of your hand, think about what they can put you on, and then make your decision accordingly. But bet sizing and bet speed are the main things. But I would also say the hands they play against other people. Because normally we get dynamics against a certain player, like he might have bluffed us and now we might be trying to bluff him, type of thing. But if you've noticed a player bluff 2 or 3 other people, he might still try that bluff against you because he hasn't already bluffed you. He might not think you've kind of been paying attention, and you might be able to spot that he's bluffed a couple of other people, and therefore you might want to stay in the hand longer and be less believing. Also, if he's the opposite and he's literally not bluffed anyone for 2 hours, he's literally only bet when he's had it, then when he's against you, you can use that knowledge to your advantage. It's fairly basic, something most players will pick up on. But for beginners, they might not know that, so that's definitely something you can use to your advantage. The next one says, what are poor hands to play pre-flop? Now, for me, it depends on the position on the table. If you're in the button, which means you're basically going to be last to act throughout, there's pretty much no bad hand in some situations. If you're on a very kind of passive table where players, they aren't playing many hands and they're playing very ABC and you know what they're doing, I would pretty much be raising nearly every hand in position. But out of position, it's a completely different story, that you don't really want to be playing too many hands, especially speculative ones at that. because you're going to put yourself in real tough positions. An example would be like a raggy ace, like ace 4, ace 5, ace 6, ace 7, ace 8, etc. Because, you know, even if you flop an ace, you've got a pair of aces, you're not going to want to fold, but it's very likely if someone else has stayed in the hand, they're probably going to have a better ace than you, and you can just get yourself in some really tough spots. And you want to make poker as easy as possible because it's a tough game already, so there's no need to kind of complicate things. But say in position, I'm playing any two slightly connected cards, any ace, most kings, all pairs of picture cards, all pairs, 6, 7, 7, 8, etc. But under the gun, when I'm like one of the first to act, I'm probably playing maybe ace jack suited upwards, as well as all my pairs and things like that. But the later you get, you can kind of be a little bit more aggressive because poker is all about winning. You don't just want to be trying to sneak into the cash, you want to be trying to win that tournament, because over time, whether you're a winning or losing player, most of the money you make is going to be from winning tournaments, not from consistently cashing. So you want to be taking more risks the later on in tournaments, but early on you want to be more risk averse and, you know, not get too attached to raggy hands or hands like king 10 offsuit, and just as hands that if you do hit a pair or a bit of it, you have no really idea where you are in the hand. Next question was, at what stage would you start going all in? And in terms of big blinds, I think it depends on the site, because some sites have antes, some sites don't. If we're playing a site with antes, I would be looking around the 25 big blind mark to kind of 3-bet shove. So if a player opens, what kind of stack size would I be shoving all in on? With a decent hand, it would be around that 20 to 25 big blind mark, especially if a player's been really active so far, and I'd be shoving hands such as 10s, jacks, 9s, ace king, ace queen, maybe ace jack. But in terms of open shoving, again, it's different on position, but I would say maybe you're looking around the 20 to 15 big blind mark with antes. And again, it'd be a similar range, kind of ace jack upwards, or if I was on the button or small blind, maybe like ace 10, ace 9, ace 8, because it's got to get through less players to be profitable. So that's kind of the ranges. If you're playing on Sky where there isn't antes, I would drop it by maybe 3 or 4 big blinds. So instead of 25 big blinds, 3-bet shoving, it would be 20 big blinds. And instead of open shoving, maybe 15 to 20 big blinds, it would be 10 to 15 would be where I would start. Obviously, the less you have, if you get down to 7, 8 big blinds, you're going to open your range wider. I'd be shoving pretty much any king at that stage. Obviously, definitely any pair, and hands like 7, 8 suited or 8, 9 suited, because even if you get called, you're going to have a decent amount of equity with hands like that, because you're not going to get called by too many dominating hands, like, you know, no one's going to call you with queen 8 and queen 9 and those type of hands. So that's pretty much the main kind of strategy questions I got asked. A few others were about ego at the table, and, you know, for me, this was the one thing that I kind of learnt when I first started playing poker, because I came from playing football at a fairly decent level to playing poker at a very poor level, and I still had a massive ego when I played football. But when I played poker, I still had that massive ego. I wanted to win every hand I played. I wanted to try and bully the better players and prove that I was better than them, and it was such a bad idea. You kind of learn over time that you have to kind of get rid of all emotion, all kind of feelings at the poker table. You want to be as emotionless as possible. If someone's bluffed you 2 or 3 times, you don't want to be trying to get them back. You want to just kind of play your optimum poker all the time, and that's how you're going to make the most money. It's tough. It really is tough. And there's a book called The Mental Game of Poker, which I read about 5 years ago now. I think there's a couple of volumes of it, and it's really, really good. It kind of teaches you not necessarily how to keep your head, but how to play your A game most often, because most of us time we're distracted. It could be TV on, could be hungry, we could be tired, could be bored, could be all these things. And if you can still maintain a good level of concentration and a good level of play whilst, you know, other things are going on in your life and in your world, then you'll do a lot better. So that's a book I definitely would recommend. I had another one about how to cope with losing runs, and it is tough. It is really tough. I think I was quite lucky in my first 2 years as a professional. I think the first year I went 11 months out of 12 I was winning. I think the second year it was 10 months out of 12, and then the third year it was 9 months out of 12. But those 9 months, the 3 losing months all came consecutively. It was in the summer, and I can't think, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. And I probably was around £5,000 down over a 3-month period. And it was tough. It was really tough, because imagine going to work every day for 3 months, and at the end of the 3 months you've got to cough up £5,000 for the privilege. It's not nice at all, and it can definitely mess with your head. I think the most important thing is to kind of differentiate, are you getting unlucky or are you playing badly? And the way to do that is by looking over previous hands you've played. And if you kind of, don't just look at the hands where maybe you've been knocked out, look at any hand where you've had a significant rise in chips or drop in chips, and think, did I play that hand optimally? And sometimes it will be a case of you will go a month or two just getting really unlucky. But you need to be honest to yourself, because there's very, very, very often down to poor play that sometimes you can put down to bad luck, when it actually, you are at fault and you can make changes. And if it's a certain area or a certain stage in a tournament, maybe late on you're just getting a bit too aggressive, or you're a bit too passive, or early on in tournaments you're just trying to win too many chips too soon, you can kind of notice patterns. And then when you know what the problem is, you can look online, look on YouTube videos and stuff for how not to do that or how to counteract that. And then you can kind of change your game from there. So a few other questions. Am I self-taught? Yes, I am. I started out just watching videos, or actually I used to watch Sky Poker TV when that first came out. It's not about anymore. But then I started watching a load of Poker Stars videos. I think they still got a lot on their website. The Big Game or High Stakes Poker. All these kind of shows where I kind of fell in love with some of the characters and just watching the game. And I took on a load of information without realising. I was watching it purely for fun. And I could still now watch poker for hours and enjoy it. And then I kind of decided, I want to give this a go. Started playing, and I did what I mentioned earlier. I read loads of articles online. And then for about a year, literally just played for fun. And then when I kind of got to that break-even level, I started taking it more seriously. I started maybe 3 or 4 hours a week. I would just be kind of revising and then playing, revising, then playing, revising and playing, until I kind of got myself to a good enough level where I was making money, most weeks. And then I kind of, took the punt, decided I was going to try and become a professional player, saved up a little bit of money at work, and then just kind of went from there. And I was lucky enough that it worked out. It doesn't obviously work out for everyone, but I was young, and I think it's best to take these opportunities when you are young, rather than wait until you get to your 30s and then decide you want to do it when, you've got far more responsibilities. In terms of my biggest win, someone asked, in terms of a night, I think it's about £9,500, which sounds like a lot of money, but I would say most professionals probably in my boat probably have won more in a night than me, I would say. But that was, I think I won the main event on Sky on a Sunday one night, which was around £6,000. And they used to have, or they still might even have, this final table jackpot, where if you make the final table of the main event and the mini event in the same night, you get a cash bonus depending on where you come. I think if you win both tournaments, you get a £5,000 bonus. If you came like 6th in both tournaments, you'd get like a £50 bonus, and obviously wherever in between was a different amount. And I think I won the main event and come second in the mini event and got about a £2,500 bonus. And then with the money I won from the mini event as well, it was about £9,500. And I still remember that feeling that night, because it was probably about 3 a.m. by the time it all finished, and there's not many people awake at 3 a.m. on a Sunday night, so I don't think I really got any sleep that night. And then I was on the phone to my dad at like 8 a.m. the next morning, absolutely buzzing. So that was my biggest ever poker win anyway. In terms of live, I don't play much live poker. I play 1 or 2 tournaments a year. I've never had a real big win. I've had a few 1,000, 2,000 kind of cashes, but I've never won a big tournament live, which is something obviously I would love to do, as with every player. But when you only play once or twice a year, it is tough to do, especially when you're playing against 400 or 500 people. I've won a load of gadgets and stuff as well, which is weird. Like loads of Sky, mainly Sky, but I'm sure PokerStars, Party Poker, they all run loads of competitions and promotions from month to month. I've won a couple of laptops, 2 iPads, a phone, a PlayStation 4, a holiday to Punta Cana, a few kind of smaller trips. I've won a evening with Joe Kawasaki, which was a weird one, because that's one of the good things with poker. They run so many promotions to get new players in and to get people playing poker. There's so many chances to win, not just money, but to a load of random things that they give away along the way. And it's a good thing to make friends as well. You know, I've probably made 5, 10 real good friends through poker and the community that poker has. I think they do a lot of good in the world, poker players. I think players that are a lot better than me, like the real high stakes players, because they've got such good brains and they can kind of read the world so well. You know, a lot of them are really good kind of philanthropists. They give a lot back to the community. And I think given that the gambling industry itself is full of a lot of dodgy characters, I think poker is one of the areas where people are quite good. So anyone looking to get in, I think poker player, compared to betting, I would definitely recommend playing poker rather than betting if you was a brand newbie, because it is more fun. For me, it's more competitive and it's a lot friendlier, and it's probably a lot kind of good for your mental health to kind of make friends and play this game and enjoy it. So yeah, I can't recommend poker enough. But in terms of strategy and videos like this, I'm going to try and get a little bit more posted whilst lockdown is on, because I haven't actually been playing too much poker myself, but I've just seen the numbers and the amount of people online, it's ridiculous. So many new people must be taking this up, and I'll hopefully try and get a video done to either focus solely on strategy or maybe for beginners or intermediates or whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching, and if there are any questions or queries or anything else, you can get at me at JJValueHunter on Twitter, or just comment below this video and I'll do my best to get back to you. Cheers.